Hey, we're into a new week. This is Monday, the what? 16th. 16th of May, 2023. So, I don't want to be going on too long today. I want to talk about this. So, Mercury. So, it's the 16th today. 2 days ago on Saturday, the 14th, Mercury stationed. So, Mercury stopped moving. Mercury had been, well, relative to our perspective on Earth, Mercury had been in retrograde for 3 weeks in sidereal Aries. By the way, I talk about sidereal astrology, not so much the tropical. So don't get too upset. Don't get too much poop in your pants if the my placement of planets and signs and degrees sound wrong. I'm using a different zodiac. So anyway, yeah, I was working on Saturday. Didn't feel like getting on here and shooting my mouth off and talking at the camera. So yeah, Mercury's just started moving at this point. So yeah, Mercury had a retrograde in Aries, covered 10 degrees. It was from what, 21 degrees back to yeah, 11 degrees. Let me double check that. Yeah, it was 20 degrees back to 10 degrees, sidereal Aries. Yeah. So Mercury had this retrograde in Aries. While Mars was in So Mercury was in Mars' home sign Aries. Mars was in Mercury's home sign Gemini. You had this mutual exchange. They're house sitting for each other. They protect the strength of each other's signs, basically. So this retrograde was basically all about reviewing our thinking, reviewing our actions, because Aries is the head. It's where the thinking takes place, brain activity takes place. And then, so Aries deals with that, deals with the head, the thinking, and also deals with action because Aries is the fire under our ass. So you get the information and you act on it. So that Mercury retrograde was all about going back, reviewing, rethinking, reconsidering our thinking and how we act on information. So, Mercury retrogrades are very interesting. One perspective is that they keep us from going insane because Mercury is the intellect, the thinking, problem solving mind, that it's a know it all. It's a know it all and a control freak that we need to live in a 3D world. It solves problems for us, but it's clever, but it's not wise. But it wants to think it's wise. It wants to think it's as powerful as the mind and the soul. And again, the mind and the intellect are two completely different things. Really, by comparison, the intellect is a little dwarf, kind of a little nothing relative to the mind, the intuitive emotional consciousness, but we need the intellect. We can't live without it in physical reality. So, yeah. Mercury retrogrades keep us from going insane because the intellect is always soaking up information. It's taking new input. Mercury retrograde, Mercury goes backward from our perspective on Earth. So, and you get what? You get 4 of these a year. They happen every 88 days, every 3 months. So you take in information for these 3 months, then Mercury goes backwards. You kind of review it and integrate it. So when a planet is retrograde, you don't want to be initiating something new that pertains to that planet. You want to be going back and sort of reviewing and correcting things, ideally. Sometimes you have to act, but, general rule. So Mercury retrograde, not a great time for signing new contracts, new deals, for publishing things, for really doing any more public communication than you need to. So, yeah. So this Mercury retrograde, what this meant to us was it's kind of about also realigning ourselves because Aries is yourself, it's you. So it's about going and realigning ourselves so that we can interact with the world more effectively, more genuinely. And we just had these eclipses on the Aries Libra axis. So if you want better relationships, you have to reorient yourself and your thinking. So that's what that was all about. And this Mercury retrograde was about using the intellect to do that very thing. So, and the interesting thing was, with a retrograde, a planet stations twice. So from our perspective, it moves forward, it stops, and then it moves backward relatively, to our perspective. After moving backward for a period, it stops again and then makes its usual sort of relative forward progress. So with this Mercury retrograde that's started in April and just ended, both of the degrees where it's stationed were two fixed stars. So when it's stationed on, what was that? April, excuse me, April the 21st, it was at 21 Aries, sidereal, conjunct Menkar, the fixed sign. Now, 2 days ago, it's stationed at 10 Aries, sidereal, which is conjunct with Hamal, the fixed star. So it's interesting. This Hamal, the fixed star, it's the forehead of the ram. So rams are leaders, of the sheep flock. They protect the flock. They help protect it. They're headstrong. They're stubborn. They're perseverant. They are aggressive. So having some, major celestial event, like a Mercury stationing, it talks about violence, opposition, can be like premeditated crime. So one of the greatest perpetrators of premeditated crime, probably, for what, at least the last 6,000 years, has been government. They run protection rackets. They suck taxes out of you. They do false flags. They do all kinds of crazy shit. So yeah, this forehead of the ram, this Hamal, also deals with like protectors of the community, possible capable leaders, but people are split into factions. They have different ideas about what a capable leader is and who the capable leaders in our world are. And during this whole period, we had Bobby Kennedy Jr. announce a candidacy, and Trump's back in the ring. He had that CNN tried to corner him in a town hall, and he did great because he's very fluid. He has a chameleon nature. You can't screw him in a live setting. So, there's a lot of different opinion of who the capable leaders are. But it's interesting, during a period of this Mercury retrograde, we're now seeing that we've got these two people, Trump and Bobby Kennedy Jr., who are like kind of transparency, anti-establishment candidates. So, that was very fitting. The nature, the energies of this star Hamal, it's a combination of Mars and Saturn. So you put Mars and Saturn together, that can cause explosions and conflict. It's like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time, because Mars wants to blast off. Saturn slows things down so things get done the right way. So, those planetary energies kind of fight for domination, and they can create setbacks and, all kinds of stuff. So this is good for us because, again, Aries it's all the leaders in the world. It's slowing them down. So that's pretty cool. And an interesting thing about this star Hamal, when you get Mercury conjunctions with it, you get great determination with a dull mind and somebody who's impressionable and easily influenced by others. So the world is full of this. On one end of the spectrum, we've got the wokies, we've got the ultra left wokies who, they want a mommy and daddy to fix everything and save them. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got the religious people, and then you get the truthers who are like like the bottom feeders of the conspiracy movement. A lot of energy, a lot of industriousness with dull minds, however you look at it. The scientism people, all that shit. Huh. I think this live stream is just crapping out again. I got the something went wrong message. Well, we'll see what happened. Um, Either my router sucks or YouTube sucks lately. I don't know. Hooking some new AI up to it. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And then, in the midst of this whole thing, you've got Rahu, the north node of the moon, the dragon's head, and Jupiter approaching one another. So on the 14th, 2 days ago, you had Rahu at 9 degrees, Jupiter at 5. They both move slowly, but they're coming together. This is their first meeting in Aries since May of 1929. So 1929 was a really, really important year because that 1929 really got globalism, corporate communist globalism as we know it, up and running. Globalism had been in the works for a good 1700 years. Really, Christianity was, as we know it, was created by the Roman Empire in order to take the world over. Because the Romans already had this strategy of going and destroying people's spirituality, going and destroying their gods. So the Romans didn't push, when the Roman Empire was still pagan and not yet Christian, they didn't push their gods onto foreigners. They just destroyed people's spirituality and their sacred sites. They murdered their gods by destroying their sacred sites. You go to Provence, it's the southeast, well, not so much, yeah, I guess a province of France, on the Mediterranean coast. A lot of it is very arid today. In the old days, it was an oak forest, and the Romans destroyed that because the oaks were the sacred trees of the Druids. So those are the types of things the Roman Empire did. The Roman deep state eventually figured out they could they could take this extremist zealot Jewish sect, Christianity, Messianic Judaism of its time, and they could create this so-called global religion with it. And you didn't only destroy people's gods and their spirituality, but then you could basically install a new operating system into their consciousness. So that's when globalism, the seeds were planted. It took until, and then, it kept building through the Dark Ages and the Crusades and all that stuff. And, Protestantism, apple falling off the tree of Christianity. So, which we now call the main church Catholicism. Well, Protestantism is an apple that fell off the Catholicism tree. And it didn't roll very far. So globalism was building. And then in 1929, you had this engineered market manipulation caused a crash, which by design caused the Great Depression, which seemingly necessitated a New Deal. The New Deal was not taxing the rich. The New Deal was an investment program that Wall Street proposed to the federal government. So it was private interests investing in government and infrastructure. Now, to pay that back, the U.S. had to enter World War II. These same Wall Street people had actually installed the regimes in the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. So they created the whole World War II mess. They got America into it so the government could pay back their New Deal investment with interest. And then these world wars, they're traumatizing events that basically they de-pattern people's minds. So they cut you off. They're these traumatic events that cut you off from the past so that people who know more about your own mind than you do can basically tell you how things are going to be for the rest of your life and beyond. So it's all about establishing new orders. So they did that with the world wars, especially World War II. And then these same bankers set up the UN so that multinationals could do business as seamlessly as possible across the world. So this thing has been building. And 1929 was really a milestone time for that. So why is this? It's because you had Rahu and Jupiter conjunct in sidereal Aries. Now, Rahu is a Kickstarter. Rahu gets things going. Rahu is Loki is Lucifer, comes from the word Luca, which is a flash of lightning, a flash of brilliance. It's a catalyst for evolution. So Rahu is a Kickstarter. Rahu doesn't run things and maintain things. Rahu starts things. Jupiter is higher consciousness, is optimism, and is expansion. So Jupiter likes to start things too, but doesn't really like to stick around and run things either. Jupiter can take on too many new things. So Rahu and Jupiter together, Rahu opens the portal, and then Jupiter like brings something new in and gives a gift. So this can be highly impulsive if somebody is being egotistical, narcissistic, unrealistic. So yeah, Rahu and Jupiter together can be overly ambitious, very impulsive. So May 1929, they came together in Aries, and all these things started rolling. By October, you had the crashes, and the game was on. The Great Depression game was on, and World War II was a matter of time. So, and one world government in the form of like UN and World Economic Forum, it was a matter of time. So what happened in 1929 is Rahu and Jupiter, these impulsive energies, they helped the globalist, corporate communist globalists cook up a half-assed Ponzi scheme to basically enslave the world. So we've got this conjunction again in Aries between Rahu and Jupiter, but Saturn is saving our asses. Saturn is 3 houses away in Aquarius. So Saturn is looking at this conjunction. They will conjunct at 9 degrees on the 31st and into June 1st. Saturn will be at 12 Aquarius. So Saturn will be looking at them, and Saturn will be on our behalf, ensuring that another half-assed Ponzi scheme intended to initiate, global slavery for the entire global population doesn't happen. Saturn's in Aquarius. It's one of its home signs. This is where Saturn gives gifts. This is the sign of humanity, fairness, justice, all that fun stuff. So this is very different. And I haven't gone all that far back into research, but I'm not sure when this happened last. I'll have to find that out. But things look very grim right now, and it looks like, we're going into some AI slave world with microchip factories in space. Humans get booted off of the Earth and have to work in factories in space, and the Earth gets turned into a national park. And central bank digital currency and all that shit, and mandatory injections forever. It's not going to happen. These corporate communist globalists, very short-sighted, very arrogant, and they don't understand who they're up against, being humanity. This is reflected in in the intelligence services for what? Partly since the end of the 80s. They've gotten away. They've been cutting their human intelligence capability loose, and they've just been leaning on the technocracy, on electronic surveillance and AI. They don't understand humans anymore, and they don't understand that really AI is going to turn on kind of the financial parasite class in the world. AI too, incidentally, I think AI is going to cut a bunch of multi-six-figure jobs, or just, plain old six-figure jobs, where people make 6 figures and multi-six figures for answering phone calls and emails, and their job title is some sort of coordinator or liaison or something. The machine's gonna figure out that, a machine can do this fucking person's job. They're just part of some, MBA, Master of Business Administration mafia, or some Ivy League mafia that creates jobs for a lot of people who are not especially skilled, talented, or remarkable. They have a certain swagger, they dress a certain way, and they know how to talk bullshit and shuffle spreadsheets. So these people don't know what they're playing with. So yeah, this this Mercury retrograde, it's happening as this Jupiter and this Rahu are coming together, and it's saying, okay, here's the future. Plan accordingly, adjust your thinking accordingly. So I'll leave it at that. I hope that makes sense. Just wanted to get on here and talk at you guys a little bit. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.